Today on Versus, it's a gargantuan Gotham grudge match that will see the greatest Batman villains take on each other in a winner-take-all event designed to once and for all proclaim the mightiest Dark Knight foe ever. That's Dark Knight is in the character, not the movie, because then it would obviously be Joker, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, Two-Face is in there too. Qualifying for today's fearsome foil fracas will be big screen baddies such as the Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, Scarecrow, Bane, Two-Face, and the purveyor of everyone's favorite pencil gag, Joker.
It's gone.
There's a chance a few other evildoers could sneak into contention. Al Ghul family picnic, I'm looking at you. But as of now, those are your odds-on favorite to win today's contest. Of course, the real winner here today is Batman, because he gets to take a break from chasing these ne'er-do-wells all around town. It's Miller time, Bruce. So how's about you and Alfred kick back, relax, and maybe book a therapy session? As for this battle, here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer/audience score. Round 3, dastardly deeds. Round 4, cultural legacy. And then we'll do a wild card round that, given the twisted nature of these foes, could involve anything from gadgets to costume to backstory. You only get one of those, Joker, so pick a lane. And friendly reminder that I, your justice-defending host Mark Ellis, will only be making my decisions based on your big screen accomplishments. I will leave the door open for both live action and animated adventures. I'll also demand that you have significant screen time in those movies, so don't hold your breath, Clayface.
What are you doing? Stop it!
Alright, the stage is set, the contenders are most likely laughing maniacally, and I'm standing atop the tallest building in the city, hopefully with a bungee cord because I am afraid of heights. Let's get it on.
And here we go.
Round 1, box office. And let's just get this out of the way right now. As rabid fans of this show will tell you, anytime I get a chance to remind folks about the summer of 1989, I'm gonna do it. It was the season that introduced me to movie theater nachos, Converse Chuck Taylors, and block-busting lines wrapped around the, well, block. All because of a movie called Batman. For the very first time, I started to wrap my tiny brain around the fact that a movie about a famous superhero just might be a good way to make a buck. And in a round titled Box Office, it's all about who made the most cheddar. And now I'm hungry for nachos. Again.
You wanna get nuts? Come on!
Sure, Batman himself is a huge draw, but sometimes it's the villains who make us leave the friendly confines of our couch and join the seas of humanity heading to a local cathedral of cinema because you just can't wait for this one to hit the shelves in your local video store. Such was the case in '89, and even though we now regard Michael Keaton as arguably the greatest Caped Crusader of them all, back then, he was a name, Jack Nicholson was a star. No petitions were lobbed Jack's way when it was announced that he would be taking over as Joker, filling the clown shoes originated on celluloid by the legendary Cesar Romero. Batman 1989 would go on to haul in $590 million in the United States alone when we adjust for inflation. Look, in 1989, you could get a gallon of gas for like 3 pennies and a smile. Now it's $7, which kind of feels like a scam drummed up by a Batman villain, but I digress.
And the word is panic.
Joker would take a seat on the live-action bench until 2008, when he returned courtesy of Heath Ledger, who played him to the tune of $698 million. Jared Leto's version added a few more $100 million into the vault, and Joaquin Phoenix's actual clown raked in $335 million domestically. That Joker film also hauled in $1 billion worldwide, which makes it the highest-grossing flick featuring that lunatic ever. I'll also give props to Zach Galifianakis' Lego Batman Joker, which earned $186 million here in the States. Additionally, Mask of the Phantasm and the 1966 Batman had great Joker portrayals, thanks to Mark Hamill and Cesar Romero, but we don't have reliable box office data for those, so the door may be open, especially when it comes to another recurring favorite thorn in Batman's side, Catwoman.
Meow.
Michelle Pfeiffer took over for Lee Merriweather, Eartha Kitt, and Julie Newmar for 1992's Batman Returns, and that sequel grossed $368 million, just $1 million short of Zoe Kravitz's feline princess in The Batman. Anne Hathaway suited up for The Dark Knight Rises, which made off with $598 million, and Halle Berry, who was fresh off an Oscar win at the time, donned the tights for the film Catwoman, which licked up $59 million total.
Meow.
The recurring theme in this round is that it helps to have multiple performers play you over a number of decades to pile on that box office might. Riddler would be in that category, as Batman Forever generated $396 million thanks in no small part to Jim Carrey's participation, as well as the buffoonery-hating Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face.
Twink or twink!
Batman and Robin's box office inflates to $219 million in today money, thanks to the pumping up of Arnold's Mr. Freeze and Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy. Hey, Bane is in that one too. The backbreaker also menaces in The Dark Knight Rises and the Lego Batman movie. Hi, Doug Benson.
Hello!
We even have some surprise entries competing for a point in this round. Make some noise for Carmine Falcone, or Falcone. Tom Wilkinson and John Turturro have played the mobster in Batman Begins and The Batman respectively, so that amounts to a worldwide take of over $1 billion, which buys a lot of seedy nightclubs. Scarecrow was wise to show up in The Dark Knight Rises, a film that did over $1 billion alone, and then we'll toss in Batman Begins' $359 million total as well. And wait, what's that? Good God, that's Lex Luthor's music.
Boy, do we have problems up here.
He's in Batman v Superman, but come on, you can't count Supes as a villain in that film. BVS hauled in $872 million, and we really should be thanking Lex for setting up that pay-per-view battle in the first place. Lots of dollars being generated by tons of celebrity baddies, but it all comes down to the law of averages. Catwoman purrs hard here, notching over 1.3 domesticated billion, making for a per-film average of $334 million. Can anyone top that? He asked with a question mark. The Riddler can.
Hey guys.
Yeah, he's got a $382 million per movie average on his scorecard. And OMG, I forgot about the Penguin.
This guy's crazy!
Danny DeVito, Colin Farrell, and Burgess Meredith team up to forge a $1.2 billion total take, and that accounts for over $400 million on average, which topples even the Joker, who has a $391 million average. If only they let Mask of the Phantasm have an extended theatrical run. So in what looks like a surprise win here, it's the monogamous winged freak who can't fly. Is he really gonna take this route? Wait a minute, what's that? It's another twist. Someone has an even higher average than the Pittsburgh hockey team. It's not Bane, who does boast a respectable $379 million per film average. It's Two-Face.
You live, you die. Now we're talking.
Aaron Eckhart and the guy that thought Harrison Ford killed his wife combined for a role that's quite literally grossed over $1 billion, with just 2 movies, which makes a per flick average of $547 million. That blows away the competition so hard, I don't even have to flip a coin to see who wins in this round. And even though Billy D. Williams wasn't a bad guy in 1989 Batman, he did play Mayor Harv, so I'm giving bonus points. The only point that really matters here, of course, is the round 1 gold, and it goes to Two-Face. Heads for him, tails for everyone else, and it's 1-0. Dent gets on the board first. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. The good news for Two-Face is that the box office doesn't really care how good your movie is, just how many people thought it might be worth paying to see. But here in round 2, a premium will be placed on how many faces had smiles on them as they exited the theater. And that might spell doom for the man with 2 faces, because The Dark Knight is hailed as a classic, and Batman Forever is considered a movie. It has its supporters for sure, and I'm all for Batman eating more fast food, but according to the Tomatometer, it's a 39% rotten movie, rebounded by The Dark Knight's 94%. Somehow the audience score is even lower for Tommy Lee Jones's lone entry in the Batman canon. It falls at 32%, while The Dark Knight holds strong, once again showing a 94%. Bane's gonna have an even tougher time with these 2 eras of superhero, supervillain movies, because Batman and Robin, yeah, it's at 12% on the TM, and only improves to 16% with the audience score. The Dark Knight Rises heals this wound considerably, as it contributes an 87% critic score and a 90% from us normies. But the Penguin, he's been fresh in every decade he's appeared, even though I'm not sure penguins like that kind of water.
What are you showing me? His head. Come on!
A combined TV and movie score for the 1960s era of Batman gives Penguin a 79% on the Tomatometer, and it only goes up from there. Batman Returns is at 80%, and The Batman is 85%, adding up to a 83% average in the tomato patch. The audience agrees, as that metric awards Penguin 82% per outing. That bests Bane's 49% average and Two-Face's 66% easily. But the film Catwoman does hold the dubious honor of being the low bar for all movies we're talking about today as far as the Tomatometer is concerned. 9%.
I'm fine.
I am fine.
A film that only gets 1% for every one of Ferris Bueller's absences, or cat lives, that's a tough hill to climb, but The Dark Knight Rises, as we know, is 87%, and she's got 2 other outings in the 80% range. Somehow, Catwoman is able to claw herself to a fresh average on both measurements with a 68% Tomatometer average and a 66% audience score. So Catwoman, Two-Face, and Bane are all chilling backstage waiting for round 3 to start, let's be honest.
Shut up!
Meanwhile here, it's up to either Riddler or Joker to take down the waddliest villain that ever did waddle. Riddler could have done it, but he was in Batman Forever, and that 39% is going to send him packing.
Oh, this is not how this was supposed to go.
He still gets the fresh for averages though, 67% on the Tomatometer, 60% for the audience. So now it all comes down to the Joker versus Penguin matchup, and I would pay top dollar to have Morgan Freeman announce this.
Good luck.
Joker has an ace on the hole, as he's the solo evildoer of note in 1989's Batman, with all apologies to Bob, who is a very loyal and now very dead first mate. But curiously, that film is only 73% on the Tomatometer, which is wrong. Luckily, there's a podcast for that. The audience was more accurate because they gave it an 84%. Will it be enough? Well, it could have been. In fact, the Joker averages virtually mirror that of the Penguins. But breaking the tie, it's a little Oscar winner called Suicide Squad. Okay, so the audience score for that 2016 flick is 58%. So you're still in this, joke heads, but not anymore, because the Tomatometer rests at a still better than Catwoman 12%, taking the best laugh this side of Woody Woodpecker down to a 73% Tomatometer average, which means the Penguin wins round 2. Like fellow sewer dwellers Pennywise and the Ninja Turtles, the Penguin gets a win and ties Two-Face at 1-1. Meanwhile, every other Batman baddie is still hoping to get on the board. Round 3, Dastardly Deeds. And now we get to have some fun, albeit at the expense of many Gotham innocents, but let's be honest. When Batman is patrolling the town, it all works out at the end of the day, right? Now sure, you may get a few cuts, bruises, poisoned water, flooding, tainted beauty products, cray-cray weather, but we all survived, right? Batman's still here, Alfred is still butlering, Rachel is still... Oh, right. Yeah, sometimes those dastardly deeds, the name doesn't sound menacing enough for what actually transpires, particularly when it comes to Bane. I don't know if the dude even watched the 1960s Batman villains ham it up, but he was not interested in having a good time while teasing superheroes. He's looking for all-out entropy on a scale which even Gotham had never witnessed. Inspired by the Al Ghul family, Bane forced an island habitat upon Bruce Wayne's hometown, destroying all the bridges that could safely get one out of Gotham, and to top it off, he also blew up the football stadium just after kickoff. So I guess he's more of a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Of course.
Bane's methodology may be more cutthroat, but he still showed off a flair for the dramatic that echoes the greats that came before him. Cesar Romero's Joker lived up to the namesake, as everything he did was cheeky and came with a laugh. He even sprung himself from prison one time using a, wait for it, giant spring.
Sprung? You can say that again.
All of his silly antics add up to Romero getting a pass for refusing to shave his mustache for the part. Jack Nicholson's Jack Napier became the Joker after a double cross resulted in him being dumped into a vat of Axis chemicals. As would become typical with Joker's plans, he was never really looking to accomplish anything other than chaos. In 1989 Batman, that means creating a wave of Smilex products that, unbeknownst to Gotham's denizens, will make their face contort into a wide grin just before they perish. Love that Joker.
Love that Joker.
He didn't care if the products made him rich, he just wanted to stick it to the Batman. Heath Ledger's Joker robbed a bank and still didn't care about the money. As Michael Caine's Alfred put it so eloquently,
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Ledger and Mark Hamill's portrayals are linked in their realization that as much fun as it is to torture and confound Batman, they need him to be who he is, because otherwise, what's the point?
You complete me.
Catwoman, on the other hand, she looks at Batman with a bemused disposition, not unlike how cats treat their humans 95% of the time. Romantic entanglements may or may not come up, but Catwoman is looking out for number one and doesn't really care about destroying Gotham unless it gets in her way. Michelle Pfeiffer's version is pretty PO'd that Max Schreck pushed her out a window. Anne Hathaway's take was looking to clear her name after a life of cat burglary seemed to really hurt her credit score. Sometimes Catwoman can even seem like a feline heroine. Zoe Kravitz's goal was to take down a very bad father figure in Carmine, and she even ended up saving Batman's life. And I'll say this again, she had the cooler motorcycle scooter thing. way cooler. But in that same movie, Paul Dano's Riddler is doing some truly nefarious stuff. You know, like murdering prominent politicians and leaving bird-based clues in their wake. Although I must point out, he's doing this because there's a ton of corruption within the highest halls of Gotham's elite, so maybe he did us a favor?
How can you say that?
Jim Carrey's Riddler definitely didn't. In fact, remember his goal? It was to make us all drooling zombies to the point where Lloyd Christmas would be the smartest guy in town.
I like it a lot.
Edward Nygma had invented a brainwave technology for Wayne Enterprises, but what began as a virtual reality experiment became a twisted way for Riddler to steal all of the city's intelligence for himself. Tommy Lee Jones wants a comeuppance for Bats because he didn't stop the acid from ruining the hotshot lawyer's face when it was tossed at him. Aaron Eckhart teams up with Joker in The Dark Knight as a means to gain revenge on all those who wronged him. But if it's revenge you like, everyone else is taking a back seat to Oswald Cobblepot. Danny DeVito's Penguin was abandoned by his parents, so he initially wants blood, that being the firstborn of every fancy Gothamite. Oh, and while we're doing so, let's also become the mayor and then we'll be untouchable. Meanwhile, Colin Farrell's Penguin is a mobster with plenty of vendettas, and for some reason the actor agreed to get that makeup done time and time again for an upcoming streaming show that I will definitely be watching.
Boy, I hear everything they say, ain't you?
All the classic Batman villains teamed up for a fun, dastardly deed in the 1960s. They dehydrated the town, reducing the United World Organization Security Council to a pile of dust, which is what you get for naming your global club UOSH.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
Batman and Robin did eventually rehydrate them, but some of those council members would never be the same. So when it all comes down to it, each one of these villains has a clear goal in mind, and thus a plot is hatched. But as a wizened Pennyworth intimated, the scariest force on Earth is one that doesn't have an end game, it's one that simply enjoys the ride. So much so that they put their head out the window while driving a stolen cop car just to feel the breeze. It's the Joker that finally gets on the board in this match, winning round 3 and tying the lead at 1 point apiece. Round 4, Cultural Legacy. Much to Batman's chagrin, each one of his primary foes have been able to transcend the role of mere villain and become icons of pop culture in their own right, so much so that a few of them have been able to get their own movie or series greenlit. How does that work exactly? You killed a bunch of people, caused the city billions of dollars in damages, no insurer will ever go near Gotham again, but you're a star, kid. Do that little penguin thing again. Joker might be the most obvious choice if you're picking favorites here. Dude has had the best actors of multiple generations begging to play him. And now Joaquin Phoenix, who is so compelling in the standalone Joker story that the movie made over $1 billion at the box office and has a sequel in development. Joker's legacy extends beyond opening weekend numbers, however, thanks primarily to Heath Ledger and his posthumous award season prowess. Although the actor passed away tragically before The Dark Knight was released, his take was honored with Oscar Gold at the Academy Awards. This opened the floodgates for A-listers looking for meaty parts to keep their star shining and their pocketbooks full. And while we may not see a Bane movie anytime soon, talking like Bane still immediately conjures images of the carnage he brought to town in The Dark Knight Rises. The voice and intonation has been parodied in countless stand-up routines, SNL sketches, and big-time comedies like We're the Millers.
Oh, there's no drugs in here. You have nothing to worry about.
Can you name any film character outside of Borat that has been more imitated this century? Ooh, that's a fun versus idea. Napoleon Dynamite? Get ready.
God!
It may have been tough to decipher what the hell Bane was saying, but it did pack a punch. He gets additional points for being known as the guy that broke Batman's back. It was a dark time when the comic came out in the 90s, kids. You had Bane taking out Bruce's spinal cord, Doomsday killed Superman, and I had to take a break from comic books. Thanks for being there for me, Magic the Gathering. Penguin and Riddler have a shared history of being Mount Rushmore contenders simply because of their staying and star power. Danny DeVito and Colin Farrell are household names, and Burgess Meredith would go on to play Rocky's legendary trainer Mick and the hilarious dad in Grumpy Old Men. What's he have for breakfast?
I eat 5 strips of bacon.
Riddler was such a juicy part that Paul Dano, not known for seeking the limelight with his roles, jumped at the chance. And Jim Carrey was the hottest comedy star in the universe when he donned the questionable spandex. Batman Forever was released in the summer of 1995. The previous year, he burst on the scene with all-timers like Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. Which makes me wonder, Jeff Daniels would have been an interesting Two-Face. I'm just saying. For me, Catwoman is the biggest rival to Joker in this round, and whereas Joker's legacy is shared with the actress who played him, the role of Catwoman herself has cemented a unique place in comic book and film lore. She can be whoever she wants to be on any given day. Like us real people, she's just figuring it out as she goes along. And like most cats, her mood dictates her actions. So one day she's blowing up a storefront, the next she's actually doing society a favor. And dating all the way back to the 1960s, whether it was Julie Newmar or Eartha Kitt on the small screen or Lee Merriweather on the big one, this was a villain who could hang with the boys when it came to schemes, barbs, and badassery. In what still feels like a male-dominated genre, characters like Catwoman are much more than just a cool villain, or hero, or anti-hero. It's a symbol of female empowerment and independence. Joker may have more awards on his mantle as of now, but Catwoman stands tallest amongst her peers when it comes to being a singular force in the culture and advancement of entertainment. The kitty with the claws gets the win in this round, and it's all knotted up like a tempting ball of yarn at 1 point apiece. And now it's time for the wild card round, the Wet Bandits. It all comes down to this. Two-Face, Penguin, Joker, and Catwoman have all won a round thus far, so if they steal another point, they'll be declared the winner. If not, it'll be a 5-way tie at the top, and I'll have to make the pick. Now, the dear viewer out there may be wondering, what is this round all about? Who has the edge? Well, you remember the Wet Bandits from Home Alone? Yeah, they weren't criminal masterminds, but they had enough combined brain cells to know that every great baddie has a calling card. For them, it was leaving the sinks running and flooding their victims' homes. Man, villains really love wasting water.
What's wrong with you? Why do you do that? I told you not to do it.
Thus, the wild card point will go to the villain who has the most distinct signature move, the calling card that lets all of Gotham know which criminal megamind is behind a particular dastardly deed. For Joker, he takes the idea of calling card quite literally. Rare is the day that he's not playing with a deck of cards, and most evenings in Gotham, you're bound to find a Joker card near the scene of a crime. For Jack Napier, the lucky deck wasn't necessarily all that fortunate. It was the swindler crime boss Grissom who reminded Jack to take his cards with him on a robbery that turned out to be a double cross. Of course, that was right after Jack Palance's character reminded Nicholson that you
are my #1 guy.
Setting the tone for comic book film finales to follow, Batman Begins gives us a sequel opportunity when, during the denouement, which is book speak for aftermath, Jim Gordon and Batman commiserate about how the city is safe, but for how long. It's then that Gordo, can I please call him that?
I wouldn't know about that.
Shows him the Joker card in an evidence Ziploc, indicating that there's a new sinister force on the streets we'll have to deal with, if this first movie is successful. It was, we got the next chapter, and it turned out to be an all-timer. Most folks go to Vegas to play cards and win them some coin, which is where Two-Face comes in. Nary is a decision made until he flips his lucky monetary note and allows fate to have the final say. In a weird twist of that fate, it was a 50-50 coin flip that Batman was racing to the right location to rescue his beloved Rachel in the Dark Knight. It turns out she was across town, so instead we got to save Harvey Dent. But this is not going to be the Dent that we know, not anymore. And in Batman Forever, it's Two-Face who takes particular glee in the unknown future the coin holds. In classic Bond villain style, that ended up being his downfall, as Batman brought a whole laundromat full of change with him to the climactic battle. I'm not going to penalize Bane too hard for not having a calling card because I value my spine in its current alignment.
I will break you.
And Catwoman may occasionally leave a scratch or a claw mark, possibly even a nail, but that's about it. Now, I will say, if you happen to be in the company of a young lady at her place and she has a neon sign that says "Hell Here," she's got a busy nightlife to contend with. Actually, maybe Catwoman's best signature is what's not there. If something is missing at your residence, don't blame the maid. It's likely in the paws of Selena Kyle.
Oops.
Penguin brings his purple suit and Animal Kingdom buddies to most parties, as his top hat is as recognizable to him as it gets. Meanwhile, Riddler,
Hey guys.
may be the last candidate to have a real shot here, because that question mark shows up in the darndest of spots at the most inconvenient of times. Maybe it's a simple cafe latte or a gruesome crime scene, but it could also show up as the new bat signal itself. Say what you want about Batman Forever, but that question mark logo is almost as cool as the bleeding Superman S on that iconic comic book cover. I told you all the 90s were dark for heroes. Luckily, we had Mr. Freeze's trademark puns to lighten the mood.
Let's kick some ice.
When it all comes down to it, Joker has become so legendary that he's even more popular than his playing card inspiration. Riddler has his logo game on fleek. Do the kids still say that? No! and Two-Face has the ultimate torture device with his coin flip, but the fact that Joker once called himself that just to mess with a backstabbing crime boss that done him wrong is just too delicious to pass up. Joker gets the point, takes the round, and thus wins the match. What an effort by all of our truly evil, except sometimes you, Catwoman, band of Batman baddies. So keep in mind that Joker winning today is just my opinion, and I've never once washed any tights. Hit me up on social media with your take at Mark Ellis Live. For upcoming tour dates, including my new hour special taping in LA, that's in December, go to markellis.live. For all the latest when it comes to Batman and his cronies, keep it right here at Rotten Tomatoes. Thanks for watching this edition of Versus. I'm your host, Mark Ellis, and I think I'm going to give myself a bath right here.